All right. Hello, clienting listeners. Today's episode is going to be just a little bit different than they normally are because my co host, Gyi Tsakalakis, is not going to be doing this interview with me. I hope that doesn't make everyone turn off and stop listening right away because I think it's still going to be a really great interview. I think you're going to get a lot of great things out of it. And who knows, maybe we'll all enjoy it just a little bit more. No, I'm just kidding. Gyi is so great. And so, without further ado, I am really excited to introduce our guest for today. Taymoor Pilehvar is an immigration attorney out of South Florida, and he typically works with athletes, entertainers, investors, and then also regular people, workers, and family members. He markets his service usually using social media and engages his audience with methods that are typically unorthodox for lawyers, which is why I wanted to talk to him today. So, hi, Taymoor. Welcome
Hi,
to
Kelly.
Clienting.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Um, so, I think you're going to do great today. You don't need Gee. You're going to knock it out of the ballpark and put me in the hot seat. I'm ready.
Great. Awesome. So, for starters, I gave you a little intro there, but why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell them a little bit more about you?
Well, as she said, my name is Taymoor. I moved to Florida specifically for immigration law because this is really the vanguard of the battle in America, right? Here in California, the beach was a nice bonus, but I came here for work. So, and I use Instagram and a lot of social media for my marketing primarily because I'm not rich, right? It's a really revolutionary condition that we're in these days that if you have content that's compelling enough, you can put it on an app for free and it can get spread and people can see what you do and know the services that you provide. And it's accessible to everybody, right? So I'm using it as much as I can.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's how I was introduced to you and saw you is I was working on a blog post for Attorney Sync and was thinking about how lawyers are using social media a little bit differently and was just kind of searching around for hashtag lawyer, that sort of thing, to find different lawyers who are using the platform in different ways, and saw your post. And the first one I saw, or one of the first ones I saw that really kind of a light went off, it was a post where you have a client who skateboard or scooter or do something like that, and you were out there with them and you were like, well, I've never done this before, but my client asked me to come and give it a try and I'm going to do it. And it was just such a great content piece. But the other part of it that was something I was really looking for is I had been really searching and calling out and asking if there are any lawyers working with more of the influencer type of crowd. And so it was all kind of this perfect thing where I was like, oh, this guy, this is the person who can kind of check both of those boxes and is doing those things.
Well, that scooter pro, his name is Claudius Vertesi, and he's a really interesting case study, right? Because he does such a unique thing, right? He takes scooters, the ones that we played with as kids, the Razor scooters, and does incredible mind-boggling things that seemingly defy gravity, right? And there's actually an international scooter league. And believe it or not, the guy's not even in the top 10, okay? As far as competing. I got him his approved O1, Genius visa because the guy's social media following is immense, all right? Just in Instagram alone, which is my bread and butter, right? That's my preferred platform. On Instagram alone, he's got 1/3 of a million followers. Now, if you look at them, they're genuine. They're generally kids that are in their preteens, teenage years. So some people might look at that and see that it lacks value, but I don't, to be honest. Because those kids, they're from all over the world. First of all, those kids are all over. Those kids are from all over the world, first of all. But they've got parents, they've got families. That's a third of a million people who are linking my Instagram account with the word immigration. And if that word ever comes up in their house, I hope they direct their parents to the YouTube clip of me, right? I mean, everything matters.
Yeah, definitely kind of all connected there. And just, yeah, like you said, it's not something you would think about for your marketing efforts necessarily. But I guess let me just ask you, has Instagram led to clients for you?
It has. I get questions in my DMs all the time, okay? And let me make clear that immigration attorneys, we're not going to be the richest attorneys, right? Those are the ones that bill by the hour. We generally charge flat fee. Um, and for every case that I get in that's paid, I've probably consulted 20 clients for free. Maybe some of them take my advice and use it. Maybe some of them I have to say, I'm sorry, there's no avenue for you. But with those, every 20 consultations, I generally get a case. From Instagram, I've gotten a weightlifting case. I've gotten 2 or 3 family cases. But mostly it's just getting my word out there. I see it as planting seeds. So, and also when I have clients that I meet elsewhere, okay, one thing I love to do is put my Instagram on my business card and I hand that out. Because if someone doesn't need you right in that very moment, they're very unlikely to pull out their phone and type in your cell phone number and save your phone number, okay? But they might passively follow you on Instagram, and maybe for the next month or 3 months, they'll passively see your posts. They might like some of them, they might not. But when immigration comes up, you're the one that comes to their mind. I mean, that's what marketing is. It's to make everyone that you can affiliate your name with your service, right? So closing cases, every now and then I do, but the best is yet to come is what I feel. I'm
Yeah.
finally getting to a point where I'm getting a lot of engagement, right? And it feels good. When I first started, I was never on social media personally. In fact, I avoided it. So my foray into the social media world was as a law firm, not as an individual.
That's cool. I wouldn't have guessed that because it seems like it's something that you've kind of taken to naturally with, the hashtags you're using that really apply and the kinds of things that you're posting having more entertainment value than, entertainment value, but then there's also, you do post a lot of immigration tips and real legal situations where you're like, hey, this, if this is something that you're dealing with or something that came up for you, here is an avenue that you could try, or here's an example of how this played out in the real world.
Right. Well, I love what I do. One thing I can say is it's hard to try and create content, right? But
Yeah.
it's easy to talk about what's actually happening. And people, it's the internet. If you film it, they will come, right? So
Yeah.
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 Um,
I you're doing what obviously what is more interesting for people to follow and to engage with, and the thing that you said about people just sort of passively, they might not need you in the moment, but they'll follow you on Instagram, and then maybe when they do, you come up for them. That made me think of, I follow our real estate agent who we bought our house from on Instagram because he tends to sell kind of luxury homes, and regular homes too, like ours. And so, but I follow him because it's interesting to see what's for sale in our city, or the really cool homes that he's selling in the fancy suburb. And it's just interesting. And we have no plans to buy a new home, probably never will, but he's always kind of top of mind, and I'm always like, oh, that's a cool house that Josh is selling right now or representing. And so you're doing that version for lawyers, and just kind of being a person who is just passively there in the background where they're seeing the cool things, and it's awesome. So
Well, thank you. You know, I have I have one client, okay, and I've done work for him and his parents, and said my mom absolutely loves you, and she's so glad for everything you've done for our family. But she has some concerns about these videos not being professional, and you turning potential clients off. Right? That's for my own client who just loves my services. So I get that a lot, actually. Um, I don't let it affect me too much because it's Instagram. So that's where I do all my fun stuff. I keep all my non-fun stuff on my website or elsewhere. Facebook, I let Facebook spill over into both, right? But within its realm, I just want people to be engaged. If they want to, if I have a phone call with a client, they'll be confident in my competency after that, right? They'll know that I know what I'm talking about. So the important part for me is just to have them engaged. I've got one client, I'm not going to name him, but he's involved with the racing industry and the car industry in Germany. I had a consultation with him probably 7 months ago. And with a lot of these business cases and competition cases, you'll have a consultation and you'll say to the client, you could qualify, but you don't have a very strong case. I would do this and I would do that. Maybe in a couple months we'll reassess. Okay, and that's one of those clients. They're building their business. He's building his credentials, and when he's ready, I hope he comes to me. Now it makes me feel really good that I see that he follows every one of my stories. He likes my posts. So just by providing that content, it's almost a gauge of how hot or cold your clients are.
yeah.
I had another client that I met through, not through social media, but I met her at a volunteer event. And later she came to my office for another matter. And while we were talking, she randomly says, "Oh, by the way, I saw one of your rap songs on Instagram." I was embarrassed at first. She was clearly engaging me in business, so it hadn't turned her off too much. I said, "Oh yeah, what'd you think?" She says, "Well, it made you seem so personable, and made me a little less intimidated to come to your office."
Yeah. And I think for in every practice area, not just immigration, but immigration and family, I think in particular, and somewhat business law. But really, I can see how in every practice area, even personal injury, even criminal defense, there are going to be clients who maybe have a story that to work with a lawyer, you have to be a certain kind of person. And because, lawyers are sort of up here on this pedestal, they spent all this time and money going to school and they charge, hundreds of dollars an hour, or even their flat fees are just these, large sums of money. And you can still charge that amount of money that you are worth, and you can still have that, I went to law school and it took a long time and it was an arduous process, and you put in the work and you are the expert. But breaking down the barrier, I can see for every practice area in that there's a possibility to do that, and to be the person, like your client said, of like, oh, I saw that you were so personable, and not just sitting in front of law books and going, yes, I am the expert. This is why I charge this amount of money. You can still be an expert and, rap in your Instagram videos.
There's some of the big law firms. I talked to an attorney that worked for one of them, and he actually told me, he said, when you walk into our lobby, we make our clients wait at least 20 minutes. And while they wait, they sit on a leather couch and they're surrounded by fine art. And, during that 20 minutes, we want it to really soak in that things around here are expensive because we charge a lot, right? So it's almost an intimidation tactic. In immigration, that doesn't always work because, people say don't lie to your doctor, don't lie to your lawyer. It's especially true in immigration. There's nothing worse than applying for whatever benefit or relief that you do, and then you find out that the client was afraid to tell you something that disqualifies them, right? I want my clients to be relaxed, to trust me, to know that if they don't qualify, I won't put them in harm's way by making an application. So the only way I can do that, it's not going to be by intimidating them. It's going to be by demonstrating myself as the lawyer that you want to drink a beer with, right? So that's what I'm trying to do. And you're right. I charge the fee based on my knowledge, not based on my rapping abilities, which I'm really lucky for. So.
Yeah, but that works. I saw you posted actually this morning, so it'll be a few weeks from now. People will have to go back into your Instagram feed, but saw that you posted a great video that was using drones and that sort of thing as like a nice little client testimonial video. How did you go about creating that? Was it an exorbitant fee to be able to do that? Tell me more about the video.
Okay, so the client, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter, former world champion. I'll tell you a story about her. First of all, I met her through the valet parkers at my office. You never know where you're going to get cases, okay?
Yeah.
She was a world champion 18 years ago and since has basically retired. She came into my office on a Thursday with her trainer, and she had a head cold. I could tell. I mean, I had to hand her a box of tissues. I said, Mariana, you haven't competed in 18 years. I know you're a champion. I see on her Instagram that she's always training. I said, but you need to get back in the competition game. There was actually a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ. There was a competition that weekend. She signed up for it with a head cold and came out the Pan American champion. Okay. So I put in the petition shortly after that, and it got a quick approval. I mean, she is what she is. She signed on to fight with one of the world's top teams, and her trainer is an absolute beast too. So let's get to that. They offered me some free training sessions, and I was just going to take them. I really had no plan of making it a production by any means. But by chance, another client of mine who's been, I sent him an invoice a while ago for a certain immigration procedure, and he just hadn't paid it yet, okay? Well, this guy and because he just wasn't ready to go forward, as I told you, a lot of these cases, you do the consultation and it could be months before they pop.
Yeah.
Well, this guy's a drone photographer, and we ended up doing a barter situation for it, so I actually didn't pay anything. It fell in my lap. I feel lucky about it. The guy is really good at what he does. He filmed some training sessions with me and Coach Rafael and Mariana, and he came to Orlando to the competition. I only had one guy in my bracket, and I won. And I'm glad for that. It would have been a really different video if I lost, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
the guy was tall. He was on the second place podium, and he was still taller than me. But by the grace of Rafael Diaz, I won. Okay, Mariana did too. It was a great success. I've been waiting to release it, but video editing takes time.
Yep.
Came out today, so I'm hoping it engages a lot of people. I've already received DMs about it from other Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighters. So
cool.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Well,
I wanted to, sorry, and if there's more you want to say, I wanted to ask you, so I'm glad you brought up the DMs again, or direct messages. I am curious how you deal with the kind of ethics of, giving advice or talking to people about their legal situation when it's a scenario of, they're just messaging you over Instagram, because I know that's a big concern, and that's something that certain law firms or lawyers will keep them off of social media, is they don't want people engaging them in questions and then feeling stuck of, well, ethically, can I answer this question, or what am I supposed to do? And as Justy Nickel who was on a couple of episodes ago, said like lawyers often can't help but give advice, and so she has certain safeguards in place to make sure that she's not just like spilling all of her legal knowledge. So how do you bridge that?
Well, some people bring this up with social media, and from my perspective, I don't see the difference between emailing them, texting them, DMing them on Instagram. If you're going to get down to cybersecurity, I might see that. But nonetheless, it's not a big deal because usually I'm not going to give a full consultation in the DM. They'll reach out to me. I'll either redirect them to my cell phone because I like talking a lot better. Some people don't want to talk. Some people just want to type. They want to describe their case for me. They're still covered by attorney-client privilege. But it doesn't form an attorney-client relationship, right? So I see the dangers of it as minimal as long as you aren't just giving full consultations. Now, once they're on the phone with me, if they ask questions, of course I'm going to answer them. A lot of what I do is giving away free information. Okay, I give value, right? And that's how you engage with people. I'm really not worried about them going and taking the information I give and running with it and doing their own case, right? If they want to, that's fine. I'm sure they'll come back to me later when they need things rectified. Immigration's hard. It's harder now than it ever has been. You really got to cross your T's and dot your I's. And no matter how much big picture information I give away, the devil's in the details with these cases. So I'm not afraid to demonstrate competence by answering their questions. If there's an answer I don't know, I'm not going to bullshit it. I'll tell them, I need to dig deeper. This is a specific inquiry that might warrant a research fee. And you'd be surprised at how many people get in my DMs and ask me for illegal help. For example, I'm trying to get a job. I'm not work authorized, and I'm trying to get a job under the table. How should I have my employer pay me? Right? I stay away from that shit.
Yes.
You've always got to assume, never type anything that you wouldn't want to see at a cross-examination in the future, right?
Yeah.
So, within those parameters, which are the same exact parameters that attorneys have been applying to email correspondence since the 90s, right? Every time a new technology comes along, you're going to have the naysayers, but I use it with the same safety guidelines. No problems so far, knock on wood. And, I plan on doing it more because nobody's going to send me an email. They're going to DM me.
Yeah.
I'd be a fool to turn that down.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. That's that's smart. And you're in Florida, and I don't know if there are any special rules that the Florida State Bar has around social media, but I'm sure you are working within all of those.
They say to treat it just like any regular print ad. So, mark your office location, specify, your practice areas. I do all that. My Instagram's got all of that. So I'm compliant, and lots of lawyers are doing it, right?
Yeah, yes. As my post showed, and that was that was just the I think I called out, what was it, like 12 or 13 lawyers who are doing Instagram well, and there were so many others that I could have put on there and added to the list. It was just kind of paring down and showing different things. And so I want to talk about some of the other methods you're using to get clients. But before we do, before I hit record, we talked about that we would talk about this one thing with your Instagram.
Scandal.
And that is one of the, and I think, okay, so is fake followers. And I'll just say that. And then I will say that as part of the post, I made sure with everyone, I kind of took a look at their followers and scrolled through and just randomly picked ones to look at and see. And not every single person on social media can identify a bot or fake follower, but typically they're bots or they're follower farms where they just go in and kind of, there are people who are just following everywhere in like a big warehouse in India and or Russia or something. But because of the industry, working in the marketing industry, I can identify those. And it's just sort of the giveaway of they are following, 6,000 people, but they have 5 followers themselves and they have no posts and it's like this random screen name. And so I was like, okay, there are some here. So I wanted to give you a chance to rebut or respond because I did call that out in an article, and I still put you on the list because I think you're doing really great things, and I think you could have and should have a legitimate following. But there you go.
All right. Full disclosure. Full disclosure. There are 200 fake followers. I got offered by 2 different people. They offered to sell me like, I don't remember the numbers. They were crazy numbers, like 20,000 followers for $40 or some shit like that. Said no, but each one offered me 100 as a sample. And I said, screw it, why not? Okay. So there's 200 of them. I won't lie. So this is somewhere between true and false. Now, another thing is, of these 200, they all seem to be from the Far East, Middle East regions, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I hope you don't have an incorrect estimation of it. I am half Persian. A large number of my followers are legitimate Iranian followers. Now, in that country, with all the government sanctions and restrictions on, what our First Amendment rights, free speech and all that, a lot of them don't post a lot. A lot of them don't want a lot of followers. So you could have an incorrect estimation. I'm telling you, 200. I'm ashamed of it. You called me out. You got me. Okay. I will say this. I see the appeal of it though, because if I had 20,000, I would be really embarrassed. But there is value in that. As you said, not everyone sees those fake followers. Part of my Instagram tactics, A, it's of course posting interesting content, but B, and you know this, it's engaging others, right?
Yeah.
So I go to specific hashtags where I think they might be inhabited by prospective clients. I do hashtags, I do sports immigration. So I'll go to hashtag national championship, right? And you'll see from all over the world, people who hashtag national championship, and I'll like it, I'll comment. These are the ones that are going to be good clients for me, are elite athletes. They probably got a really good follower to following ratio. And I'll be honest, they don't want to follow people who have a bad follower to following ratio. I was offered 200 free followers, and I knew it would tip the scale, right? So you called me out, and I'm embarrassed that I got called out, but I'm not embarrassed I did it. Okay, Kelly?
All right. And I will say it's, I'm glad that you owned it. It's not egregious. Of your, I'm looking at it right now, 1,300 followers, 200 of those. And also, I'm going to go back and put on my post a little asterisk that you have, a lot of friends and followers who could present as fake followers. And so just, or just an asterisk of like, that's, what we talked about. But I think there's some legitimacy to what you're saying. And I think the question for me comes in of, for the sort of influencer crowd and the kind of clients you're wanting to attract, I think that's where more ethical concerns come in, because you're not trying to get contracts to sell, a skinny smoothie or whatever, the skinny tea or whatever that is. Like, you're not trying to do that. And so there, I think on that side is where the sort of bot followers upsets me more.
Well, what's your take on it?
I definitely see the appeal. I do understand how having that follower to following ratio can be really important. I just think that when there are in social media influencers who are making millions of dollars a year, the idea that they're making that money but yet have, you know, don't have legitimate followers is just unethical. And I think there are lots of safeguards that are starting to get put in place, and Fire Festival was sort of this kind of
Yeah.
brought these things to light, how there need to be better safeguards. So and maybe that's something that I will be curious about how that comes into play. And so again, another call out, if there are any lawyers who are working on influencer regulation kinds of things, I would love to know how that's going. And so
I will say this. After you posted that, you know, I considered removing them because I know the number, 200.
yeah,
Just can't unscramble the eggs. The shame's been, the ignominy is posted on my forehead. Might as well keep that ratio up.
there we go.
I
I
won't
like it.
take any more. I value that, Kelly.
There you go. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad you're still on here and we're willing to talk to you about it. So let's, well, we can close that chapter. And I want to talk about the other things that you are doing for marketing and getting clients. I know you do a lot of volunteering and networking. So what are the kinds of things that you're doing there, or tactics that you're specifically using?
Just giving value, okay? So I want to tell kind of an interesting story, and you haven't been prepared for this one yet, but
All right.
I first came to Florida. That was about 9 months ago. I came with an office lease and my vehicle, and that's all I had. For 8 months, I slept under the desk in my office. Okay, I've been in a house now for almost a month. Feels great. So
Wow.
during that first 6-week period, I didn't have a lot of new cases here in Florida. I drove Lyft, okay? And about a month and a half ago, I signed a client who was my Lyft passenger in July. And, you know, I made a lot more than I did when I was driving around, okay? So
Yeah.
you never know where you're going to find clients. During that period that I told you about when I was without home, all I
Mhm.
had was my office. I was more committed than I'd ever been before, right? After work, I'd either work or I'd go network more. And really, you've got to just be focused with your networking, right? You want, and I've said this once here before, but it's just a really important concept for marketing and networking. I try and make every memorable interaction with anyone else, I try and make it to where when we walk away, they will forever affiliate the word Taymoor with the word immigration, right? And I apply that really consistently. And I am just always surprised at the number of cases I get just from that. To be honest, if I were to tally them, most of my cases don't originate from social media, okay? They originate from interpersonal interactions, and then
Mhm.
I foster them with social media. Okay, I give them the card, they follow me. You know, I drank a beer with that guy and he was really cool. And, you know, I never expected it. He's rapping, he's doing funny stuff. Like, I need to get to know this guy more,
Yeah.
right? So I use Instagram for that more than as a net to find new clients. I found a few like it, but generally speaking, you've got to go out and eat and kill what you want to eat, you know?
Yeah.
It's like that for any work. You
Got
can't
it.
you can't just be a keyboard warrior and get the clients, but you've got to get it wrapped up in your tactics. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think about that as like the lead generation funnel, where you're filling the top of your funnel with people that you're meeting in person and you're networking and you're volunteering. And then you're kind of they're in the middle of your funnel when they're following you on social media and they're engaging with you, and then when they get to the bottom, obviously when they engage your services and become a client, that's, they've bought into all of those things and kind of built up this relationship with you in their head of you're the person that they would want to work with. And that's cool. I'm glad to know that you've kind of got that mentality for it. And really that's I think the key for networking for me is, it's the thing I'm sort of learning about it, because I think everybody hears networking and they're like, oh, it's just got this negative connotation sort of. And so, but you're using it as like, it's not about sales. It's just about meeting people, expanding your network and expanding the people to get more Instagram followers, to get more people in your orbit.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people become clients and some won't.
Yeah. Your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
I once heard it said. So, but it's definitely my proudest tool. Okay, that's where I display, and it's just who I am, right? I don't mean to brag, but I think very few attorneys would be willing or able to just get on the gram and start spitting legal bars. Okay.
No. And most of them shouldn't, to be honest.
I've invited challenges, but no one stepped forward.
Yeah.
Where's your champion?
Obviously, you're the champion. So the last question I have for you, the last thing I want to bring up is that a while ago, you posted some short clips of you on Judge Judy. And I wanted you to share that story with everyone.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Oklahoma, and in the Midwest, you can afford property when you're 18. Okay. So I bought a condo when I was right into college. I lived in it for 5 years. I moved off to law school. When I moved off to law school, I rented it out to some tenants who lived there for 3 years. Towards, I graduated law school, and towards that, they'd been there for 3 years and started falling behind on rent. So I sent them a 30-day eviction notice. And towards the end of that 30-day window, I started getting calls from the HOA, from the neighbors, complaining about smells and flies and just all the things you don't want to hear about your property.
Yeah.
I showed up there, and I'm not exaggerating. There was a thin layer of shit all over the floor, and you would leave footprints all over the shit everywhere you went. Okay. Yeah. All the cats were gone at that point, but it was a cat issue. There were flies. Okay. So I sue them in small claims court, just regular court. And Judge Judy found me, right? I imagine she's got a team that goes through court dockets and just finds anything that doesn't involve a bank or a property institution. They're just looking for John versus Joe, right? And that was us. Now, it was actually people don't know how Judge Judy works. It's real. The cases are genuine. She has a $5,000 limit, and within that limit, she pays within 30 days. Okay, so if I sued them for $8,000, and if I would have won in regular court, they didn't have money, so I would have had to garnish their wages, and it would have been a long process. Judge Judy, I got a trip to Hollywood. I got a little airtime. I got my money in 30 days, and it turns out they had 14 cats, right? So it's really ruined my property, but totally worth it now, because I don't think there's ever been a better icebreaker ever for personal, for professional. Just that was my go-to icebreaker the summer of 2017.
Yeah.
A big breakthrough summer for me.
And I might have missed this, but had you already graduated from law school at that point?
I just freshly graduated. In fact, that summer I was working, studying for the bar, and rebuilding that house. Literally, I had to take out the bottom 3 feet of wall because it was soaked in urine. I had to replace all the flooring. I mean, I love cats. I do. I'm a cat guy, actually. But
Yeah.
one is enough, right? Maybe
Yeah.
two. Just not 14.
Yeah. 14's extreme. And so I didn't see this in the clips you posted. Did Judge Judy, did she say anything about the fact that you were a recent law school grad? Did that come up?
She did. She did. You know what? I'll send you the link for the full clip later.
Great. I will post that and share it on the on the show notes if you don't mind.
If I look back on it now, I looked scared shitless the whole time. And I was. Judge Judy's intimidating.
Yeah.
Okay. Should have smiled. I'm learning that now. I just get better with camera as time goes on.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. Well, I think that's a perfect note to end our interview on. And thank you so much for joining me on clienting and being my first solo interview.
You rocked it, Kelly.
Thank you so much. And for all of our listeners out there, if you have a topic suggestion, a guest suggestion, if you are working on influencer sort of ethics and legislation, like I mentioned, love to talk to you, or doing more traditional advertising and billboards, we're still looking for a guest who is using that methodology. So feel free to send that our way. You can always DM us on Instagram. And Taymoor, if people want to reach out to you, what is the best method for them to contact you?
Well, I imagine you're going to post this on Instagram. So
Yeah.
hopefully just go down to their description and click on my link, right?
Yes. Yes.
There we go. There we go.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, as always, thank you, listeners, and like, share, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly.